Everyone in the world believed one impossible rule. A beta could never be the mate of an Enigma, until the most powerful Enigma alive walked into a crowded hall, ignored every perfect match in the room, and chose me in front of everyone. My name is Noah Bennett, and for most of my life, I learned what it felt like to be invisible. In a society where scent determined status, where alpha families controlled industries and rare omegas were treated like treasures, betas were considered ordinary, reliable, useful, forgettable. I was 26 years old, had a degree in scent genetics, and could explain the science behind every ABO classification better than most executives twice my age. But none of that mattered when people looked at me and saw only one thing. Beta. No special abilities. No rare bond. No destiny waiting for me. At least, that was what everyone said. You should be realistic, Noah, my coworker Marcus told me during lunch at a small cafe in downtown Chicago. He stirred his coffee and glanced at my research files like they were a strange hobby instead of my career. Betas don't get chosen by enigmas. That's not how the world works. I forced a smile because I had heard those words my entire life. Good thing I wasn't waiting for someone to choose me. That was the truth. I stopped believing in impossible things a long time ago. I stopped hoping for a connection that only existed in stories. Then the announcement appeared across every screen in the city. Cassian Wolfe, the most powerful enigma in the world, would attend the annual ABO Genetics Summit. The name alone changed the atmosphere. Cassian wasn't just wealthy. He wasn't just influential. He was the person every major corporation wanted on their side and every government wanted as an ally. Enigmas were already rare, but Cassian was considered unmatched. People spent years trying to understand him, but nobody could get close. The rumors said he had never found his mate. The rumors said he never would. So when I entered the summit that evening, I expected to be surrounded by powerful people who would never notice someone like me. I adjusted my suit jacket, checked my badge, and reminded myself I was there for research, not attention. The ballroom was filled with elegant clothes, expensive conversations, and people who looked like they belonged in another world. I stood near the back, holding my tablet and quietly reviewing my presentation. Then the doors opened. The entire room changed. Cassian Wolfe walked in. Conversation stopped. Everyone turned. He wore a dark tailored suit, his expression calm and unreadable, carrying the kind of presence that made people step aside without being asked. I watched hundreds of people move toward him, each hoping to become the person he noticed. I expected him to choose someone important, someone powerful, someone who matched his world. I never expected him to look past everyone else and stop when his eyes found mine. For a moment, I wondered if I was imagining it. Then Cassian started walking toward me, and the entire room went silent. Noah Bennett, he said, as if he had known my name for years. My heartbeat changed. I've finally found you. And that was the moment everything I believed about being a beta began to fall apart. For the first time in my life, I became the center of attention without wanting it. The ballroom that had been filled with whispers and polite conversations was now completely silent. Every person in that room was watching me stand across from Cassian Wolfe, the man everyone believed was untouchable. I looked behind me, almost expecting him to be speaking to someone else. But there was nobody there. His eyes stayed on mine. You know me? I asked quietly. Cassian studied my face for a moment, like he was confirming something only he understood. I know more about you than you realize. That answer should have made me uncomfortable. Instead, it made me curious. Because Cassian Wolfe was not someone who wasted words. Every sentence from him carried purpose. A group of executives approached, breaking the silence. They smiled politely at Cassian, but their attention quickly shifted toward me. Is there a reason you are speaking with a beta researcher? One of them asked. The way he said beta made it sound like a limitation instead of a description. Cassian's expression changed. It was subtle, but I noticed. The calm mask remained, yet something colder appeared underneath. There is a reason, Cassian replied. He is important to me. The room reacted instantly. I felt every pair of eyes turn toward us. Important? That was not a word people used for someone like me. Before I could ask what he meant, Cassian stepped closer and lowered his voice. You are about to become the subject of every conversation here. I can protect you from that, but you need to understand something. What? I asked. The moment I acknowledge you, people will question everything about us. I almost laughed because the idea was impossible. Cassian, I think there is a misunderstanding. I am a beta. Whatever you think you found, it cannot be what you think. For the first time, his expression softened. That is exactly why everyone else is wrong. His words stayed with me. Everyone else is wrong. I wanted to believe them, but years of experience told me not to. Later that evening, after the summit ended, I found Cassian waiting outside the research wing. The city lights reflected against the glass walls, and for a moment, the powerful enigma everyone feared looked less like a legend and more like a person carrying a burden. Why me? I finally asked. Cassian looked toward the city before answering. Because you are the only person who never wanted anything from me. I did not know what to say. Most people saw his power before they saw him. They wanted his influence, his protection, his approval. But I had never even considered approaching him. There is another problem, Cassian continued. The council will not accept this. This? I repeated. He looked at me. They will try to separate us before they understand what is happening. My heart tightened. So what are you saying? Cassian took a breath. I am saying that for now, you need to stay close to me. It sounded impossible. Dangerous. Completely against everything I believed. You want me to pretend? I asked. A faint expression crossed his face, almost like regret. Not pretend. Let them see the truth before they decide what the truth is. The next morning, the news spread faster than anyone expected. Photos of Cassian Wolfe standing beside me appeared across every major network. The headlines were everywhere. The most powerful enigma had chosen someone. And that someone was a beta nobody believed could ever matter. Then my phone received a message from an unknown number. One sentence. You have no idea what you are. And for the first time, I wondered if Cassian had not chosen me because I was ordinary. Maybe he chose me because I was something the entire world had forgotten existed. The message from the unknown number stayed on my phone all night. You have no idea what you are. I read those words again and again until the screen went dark. They felt less like a warning and more like a reminder that everyone around me knew something I did not. The next morning, I arrived at Cassian Wolfe's headquarters expecting answers. Instead, I found a black luxury sedan waiting outside my apartment building. I stopped when the driver stepped out and politely opened the door. Mr. Wolfe asked me to bring you. I stared at the car. You mean Cassian sent a private driver? The man nodded. Yes, Mr. Bennett. I almost laughed. Yesterday, I was just another researcher. Today I was being picked up like someone important. The entire situation felt unreal. When I arrived at the Wolfe headquarters, 2 security officers greeted me and guided me through the building. Everyone looked at me, some with curiosity, some with suspicion, some with obvious disbelief. I finally reached the top floor, where Cassian was waiting beside a large window overlooking the city. You look uncomfortable, he said. Because I am uncomfortable, I replied. Yesterday, I was unknown. Today people are taking pictures of me because I stood next to you for 5 minutes. Cassian looked away for a moment. That is exactly why we need an arrangement. I folded my arms. An arrangement? He placed a folder on the table. Inside was a simple agreement. Nothing complicated. No impossible demands. Just one request. I would appear beside Cassian at public events while the council investigated the connection between us. You want me to pretend to be someone important? I asked. Cassian shook his head. I want you to stop allowing people to decide your value. His answer caught me off guard. I expected arrogance. I expected someone powerful to treat this like a business transaction. Instead, he sounded like someone who understood what it felt like to be judged. Why are you doing this? I asked. Cassian looked at the ring on his hand. It was a simple silver band with a small black symbol engraved into the metal. I had seen that symbol before. It belonged to the oldest Enigma family in the world. This ring has been passed down for generations, he said quietly. My family believes it recognizes the person who will stand beside me. I looked at him carefully. And you think that person is me? I do not think, Cassian answered. I know. Before I could respond, his assistant entered with urgent news. A group of reporters had gathered outside the building after rumors spread about our connection. Cassian looked at me. You can leave if you want. It surprised me. You would let me walk away? Yes. Even if it damages your reputation? Cassian nodded. Your choice matters more than my reputation. Something changed in that moment. For the first time, I saw the person behind the powerful name. Not an enigma, not a symbol, just Cassian, a man who had everything except someone who truly trusted him. A few minutes later, we stepped into the lobby together. The cameras turned immediately. Questions filled the room. Is Noah Bennett your mate? Is this some kind of political move? I froze. Before I could answer, Cassian stepped beside me. He did not hide me. He did not speak for me. He simply stood there, making it clear that I was not alone. Then one reporter shouted, "Everyone knows a beta cannot belong beside an enigma." The room went silent. Cassian looked at him calmly. Then everyone needs to learn something new. His hand moved toward the folder I was holding. Hidden beneath the agreement was another document. One I had not seen before. A genetic report. My name was written at the top. And beneath it was a result that made my entire world stop. Beta classification, incorrect. The genetic report changed everything, but not in the way I expected. I thought proof would silence people. I thought once they saw the results, the rumors would disappear. I was wrong. The moment the report became public, the world became louder. News channels debated my existence. Online forums questioned my identity. People who had never met me suddenly believed they knew exactly who I was. A beta researcher who somehow appeared beside the most powerful enigma alive. To them, it was impossible. To them, there had to be another explanation. I arrived at the Wolfe Foundation building 3 days later and immediately noticed the difference. Before, people looked at me with curiosity. Now they looked at me like I was a mystery they wanted to solve. I walked through the lobby holding my tablet tightly, pretending I did not hear the whispers. He probably manipulated the results. There is no way someone like him could be chosen. Cassian Wolfe must have a reason. That last sentence stayed with me because it was the one that hurt the most. Because maybe they were right. Maybe Cassian did have a reason. Maybe I was just part of a plan I did not understand. My doubts became stronger when I saw her. Amelia Cross, Cassian's former political partner, and the person everyone once expected him to choose. She stood near the conference room with a confident smile and a group of executives around her. Noah Bennett, she said politely. I finally get to meet the person everyone is talking about. Her voice sounded friendly, but her eyes were not. I hope you understand why people are confused. Cassian has spent his entire life protecting the Enigma legacy. It is difficult for people to accept such a sudden change. I knew what she was really saying. You do not belong here. Before I could answer, Cassian entered the room. The atmosphere changed immediately. Amelia turned toward him. Cassian, we were just discussing the situation. No, Cassian replied calmly. You were discussing Noah. The room went quiet. He walked beside me, not in front of me. That small gesture meant more than anyone realized. He was not trying to save me. He was showing everyone that I stood beside him. Amelia smiled slightly. You are risking your reputation for someone you barely know. Cassian looked at her with a calm expression. You are mistaken. His voice was quiet, but everyone listened. I know Noah better than anyone who judged him without meeting him. I looked at him, surprised. Cassian rarely showed emotion, but there was something different in his eyes. Something protective. Something real. Later that evening, I found him alone in his office. The city lights reflected across the windows, and for once, the powerful Enigma looked exhausted. You did not have to do that, I said. Yes, I did. Why? I asked. Cassian looked at me for a long moment. Because I watched people decide your value before they knew your name. I know what that feels like. That answer stayed with me. The man everyone saw as untouchable understood loneliness better than anyone. Then my phone received another unknown message. This time, it included a picture. It was an old photograph of my family. I had never seen it before. Behind my parents stood a person wearing the same symbol engraved on Cassian's ring. My hands went cold. Cassian noticed immediately. Noah, what happened? I showed him the image. For the first time, his calm expression disappeared. Where did you get this? I looked at the message again. There was only one sentence. Ask Cassian why your family hid the truth from you. And suddenly, I realized the biggest secret was not why Cassian chose me. It was why someone had spent years making sure I never knew who I really was. The photograph on my phone changed the way I looked at everything. For days, I had believed Cassian Wolfe was the one person who saw me differently. The one person who looked past the label everyone gave me. But now I was standing in his office, staring at a symbol that connected my family to his, and I had one question that would not leave my mind. What had Cassian known before I ever met him? I waited for him to explain. I waited for him to tell me that everything was a misunderstanding. Instead, Cassian remained silent. And somehow, that silence hurt more than any answer could have. You knew, I said quietly. His expression changed. Noah, you knew something about my family. I placed the phone on his desk. You knew there was a connection between us, and you never told me. Cassian looked at the photograph, then back at me. For the first time since I met him, he looked uncertain. I was trying to protect you. I almost laughed, but there was no humor in it. Everyone keeps saying they are protecting me. My family did it. The council does it. Now you are doing it too. The room became silent. Cassian was known as the most powerful enigma in the world. He could negotiate with executives, influence governments, and silence entire rooms with a single sentence. But he could not answer the one question that mattered. Why did he choose me? Tell me the truth, I said. Was I just part of a plan? His eyes met mine. No. The answer came immediately. Never. But I needed more than a word. I needed honesty. Cassian finally sat down and removed the silver ring from his hand. The symbol was no longer just a family mark. It was connected to an old agreement between two bloodlines. My family and his. A promise made years ago. Your parents discovered something about your genetics, Cassian explained. They learned that the world was wrong about you. They knew you were not an ordinary beta. I stared at him. And you knew? Cassian nodded slowly. I knew there was a possibility. I did not know the full truth until the report confirmed it. That should have made me feel better. It did not. Because there was still one question left. Then why did you approach me at the summit? Cassian looked away. Because I recognized you. My heart tightened. From where? Before he could answer, his assistant entered the room with another urgent update. The council had called an emergency meeting. They wanted Cassian to explain why he had chosen me. They wanted proof. They wanted control. And suddenly, the agreement between us felt different. What started as a public arrangement had become something much bigger. The entire world was watching. Later that day, I stood beside Cassian at the council meeting. Cameras flashed. People whispered. But this time, I noticed something different. Cassian was not worried about his reputation. He was worried about me. When one council member questioned whether I was using Cassian for influence, he calmly interrupted. Noah had a life before my name was attached to his. He built his own success. He does not need mine. Those words should have made me happy. Instead, they reminded me of the distance between us. Because the person defending me was also the person hiding the truth from me. After the meeting, I found an old file left on the table. It contained records about my family. At the top was a name I recognized. Cassian Wolfe. Not as a stranger, not as an ally, but as the person connected to the biggest secret of my life. The truth was finally coming out. Cassian was not just the most powerful enigma in the world. He was the heir to the legacy my family had spent years hiding from me. And suddenly, I wondered if he chose me because he cared about me, or because I was the missing piece of a promise made long before we ever met. After everything I learned, I thought distance would be easier. I thought if I stayed away from Cassian Wolfe, I could finally understand what was real and what was part of a plan. But the truth was harder to accept. Because every time I remembered the way he defended me, the way he stood beside me when everyone else questioned my worth, I remembered something else too. He had protected me while keeping secrets from me, and I did not know which part hurt more. The next few days were filled with questions. Reporters waited outside my apartment. Messages filled my phone. People who had never spoken to me before suddenly wanted answers about my identity, my family, and my connection to Cassian. I tried to ignore it, but pretending everything was normal became impossible. Then the rain started. Chicago rain always felt endless, covering the streets in gray and making the entire city look quieter than it really was. I left the research center later than usual, carrying my files and trying not to think about everything I had lost in just a few days. My old life was gone. I was no longer invisible, but being seen had become its own kind of pressure. I reached the sidewalk and realized I had forgotten my umbrella. Before I could decide whether to wait or run through the rain, a black car stopped nearby. The door opened, and Cassian stepped out. I stared at him. What are you doing here? He looked at the rain falling around me, then at the papers in my hands. Making sure you get home safely. I almost told him I did not need his help. I almost walked away, but then I noticed something different. Cassian was not wearing his usual expression of control. He looked tired. Not powerful. Not untouchable. Just tired. You should not be here, I said quietly. Your council meeting ended hours ago. I know. Then why come? Cassian looked at me for a moment before answering. Because I knew you would say you were fine even if you were not. That sentence stopped me. Nobody had ever noticed that about me. I always told people I was fine because it was easier than explaining how exhausting it was to constantly prove myself. Cassian held the umbrella above us as we walked toward the car. He did not try to convince me. He did not demand forgiveness. He simply stayed beside me. At his home, everything was different from what I expected. The place was enormous, but it felt strangely empty. The walls were decorated with achievements, family portraits, and symbols of a powerful legacy. Yet there was no warmth. No sign that anyone actually lived there. "It is bigger than I imagined," I said. Cassian gave a small smile. "Most people see the size first." "And what do you see?" I asked. His expression changed. "A place where I spent most of my life alone." That was the first time Cassian Wolfe sounded like a person instead of a legend. He told me about growing up in a family where every choice was made for him. His future was planned before he was old enough to understand what freedom meant. He was raised to become the perfect enigma, not a person with his own fears. "Everyone wanted what I represented," he said. "My name, my power, my position." He looked down at his hands. "Nobody ever asked what I wanted." The room became quiet. Then he said something I never expected. "I was afraid." I looked at him. "Of what?" Cassian's voice became softer. "That when someone finally saw the real me, they would leave." For the first time, I understood him. The man everyone believed had. Everything was afraid of losing the one thing he had never truly had. A real connection. I did not forgive him completely that night. The secrets still mattered. The questions were still there. But when I left his house, I no longer saw Cassian as someone who had chosen me because of destiny or a hidden agreement. I saw someone who was afraid of being abandoned. And maybe that was the first time I started choosing him too. For the first time since meeting Cassian Wolfe, I wondered if I had made the biggest mistake of my life. The room was filled with cameras, reporters, and people waiting for an explanation. Only hours earlier, I believed we had finally reached a point where trust was possible. I believed the distance between us was disappearing. Then everything changed. The large screen behind the council stage turned on, and my name appeared across it. My stomach dropped. The document displayed on the screen was familiar. Too familiar. It was the agreement Cassian and I had signed when the world first started questioning us. But the version shown to everyone was different. The words had been changed. The meaning had been twisted. According to the document, I had approached Cassian because I wanted access to his influence. According to the fake messages displayed beside it, I had planned everything from the beginning. The room exploded with whispers. He used him. So it was all an act. He manipulated the strongest enigma in the world. I stood there unable to move. Every accusation felt heavier because a small part of me was afraid they were saying what I had secretly worried about. Maybe I had been foolish. Maybe I had trusted someone too powerful. Then Amelia Cross stepped forward. She looked calm, almost sympathetic. That made it worse. "I did not want this information revealed," she said. "But people deserve to know the truth." I looked at her. "You expect everyone to believe this?" She sighed. "Noah, I understand why you are upset. But the evidence speaks for itself." The evidence. That was the problem. People loved evidence because they never asked where it came from. They only believed what was placed in front of them. I looked toward Cassian. He had not moved. He stood beside me, silent. And for a few seconds, that silence hurt more than anything anyone else had said. My mind filled with questions. Did he believe it? Did he think I had betrayed him? Was this the moment he finally realized I did not belong in his world? The room waited for his answer. Cassian looked at the screen. Then he looked at me. Those few seconds felt endless. I lowered my eyes because I could not handle the possibility of disappointment. Then Cassian spoke. "This document is fake." The room became silent. His voice was calm, but there was something different beneath it. Certainty. The agreement Noah signed was created under my supervision. The document displayed here was modified after the fact. Amelia's expression changed slightly. Cassian continued. "And the messages are incomplete." He looked toward the screen. "They remove every sentence that proves the opposite." The reporters started asking questions, but Cassian did not look away from me. Noah did not chase my name. He never asked for my protection. He tried to leave because he was afraid of damaging my reputation. My chest tightened. Because he remembered. He remembered every moment I tried to walk away. Every moment I believed I was a burden. Cassian stepped forward. "The person who created this story wanted everyone to believe Noah needed me." His voice became colder. "The truth is that I needed him." The words shocked the entire room. Even me. For years, Cassian Wolfe had been seen as someone who needed nothing and no one. Yet there he was, choosing honesty over pride. After the meeting ended, I found him outside near the quiet hallway. You could have protected your reputation, I said. You could have let people believe the documents. Cassian looked at me. And let them believe something false about you? He shook his head. Never. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to forget the fear I felt when he stayed silent. But there was still one question. Who created this? Cassian looked at the encrypted file on his tablet. His expression changed when he saw the hidden signature. Noah, he said quietly. This was not created by someone trying to separate us. I looked at him. Then what was it? Cassian turned the screen toward me. The signature belonged to someone connected to my family. Someone who knew the truth long before I did. And beneath the name was a message that made my heart stop. The beta must never remember who he really is. The next morning, the entire city was waiting for Cassian Wolfe to speak. The council chamber was filled with reporters, executives, and members of the ABO community who wanted to know whether the connection between us was real or just another carefully created story. I stood near the center of the room, feeling every question before anyone even asked it. Was I a mistake? Was I a temporary choice? Was I only important because Cassian needed a symbol? Then the doors opened. Cassian walked in. He did not look angry. He did not look afraid. He looked certain. The room became quiet as he approached the main platform. Amelia Cross stood nearby with the same confident expression she had worn before, but this time something was different. She looked unsure. Cassian placed a tablet on the table. Before anyone makes another judgment about Noah Bennett, you should see the complete information. The screen behind him changed. The first image was the agreement between Cassian and me. The real agreement. The second was the original message records. The third was the verified timeline showing when the documents had been edited. The room slowly changed. The whispers became silence. Cassian continued calmly. The evidence presented yesterday was incomplete. Parts were removed to create a false story. Amelia stepped forward. You cannot expect everyone to believe your personal opinion. Cassian looked at her. This is not my opinion. He tapped the screen. These records were verified by independent investigators. The modifications were made before they were released. The confidence on Amelia's face disappeared. For the first time, everyone saw the difference between a rumor and the truth. But Cassian was not finished. He looked at the crowd. I know what everyone thinks. His voice carried across the room. You think Noah entered my life because of my position. You think he wanted my name, my resources, or my influence. He paused. Then he looked at me. But you are wrong. My breath caught. Cassian rarely showed emotion in public. He had spent years building a reputation around control. Yet now, standing in front of everyone, he was choosing honesty over protection. When Noah and I first created our agreement, there was a reason for it. We needed time. We needed a way to face a world that had already decided what we were before knowing us. He looked back at the crowd. At the beginning, our arrangement may have been created because of circumstances. But what happened after that was not an arrangement. The room became completely silent. Cassian stepped closer to me. Noah never asked me for power. He never asked me for my name. He was the first person who looked at me and saw a person instead of an enigma. I did not know what to say. For months, I had believed I was the person who needed saving. But standing there, I realized Cassian had been searching for something too. I chose Noah because of who he is, Cassian said. Not because of what people think he represents. The cameras captured every second. The moment everyone expected a powerful enigma to deny the rumors became the moment he confirmed them in the only way that mattered. He chose me. Publicly. Completely. After the meeting ended, the hallway was finally quiet. I looked at Cassian. You could have protected yourself. He smiled slightly. I spent my entire life protecting my image. He looked at me. I do not want to protect an image anymore. For the first time, I believed him. The agreement that brought us together was no longer the most important thing between us. The world had seen the truth. But there was still one mystery left. As we walked away from the council chamber, Cassian received a message. His expression changed when he read it. What is it? I asked. He looked at me carefully. The person behind everything has been found. My heart tightened. Who? Cassian turned the phone toward me. The name on the screen belonged to someone connected to my past. Someone who had been watching me my entire life. And below the name was a final message. The hidden Enigma bloodline has awakened. For the first time in my life, I was not waiting for someone else to decide my future. The world had spent years telling me what I could not be. A beta. Ordinary. Forgettable. Someone who would never stand beside an enigma. But after everything that happened, I finally understood something important. My worth was never decided by a title, a scent, or a place in society. It was decided by the person I chose to become. The mystery behind my family was finally revealed. The person who had hidden the truth about my past was not trying to destroy me. They were afraid of what would happen if the world discovered that the old ABO system was wrong. My existence challenged everything people believed about compatibility and destiny. But the biggest surprise was not my hidden history. It was realizing that Cassian Wolfe had never chosen me because of that secret. He chose me before he knew the full truth. He chose Noah Bennett, not a symbol, not a genetic possibility. Me. A few weeks later, the Wolfe Foundation held its annual Winter Gala. It was the same kind of event where we first stood together, surrounded by people who questioned whether we belonged in the same room. But this time, everything felt different. I walked into the ballroom beside Cassian, not because we needed to convince anyone anymore, but because we wanted to be there together. The whispers were still there, but they had changed. People no longer looked at me like an impossible mistake. They looked at me like proof that the world could change. During the evening, Cassian handed me a small folder. I opened it and immediately recognized the document inside. It was the agreement we had signed months earlier. The one created for appearances. The one that started everything. "Why are you giving this to me?" I asked. Cassian smiled slightly. "Because it does not belong to us anymore." I looked at the final page. The old terms had been removed. In their place was a simple statement. A choice made freely. No pressure. No expectations. No obligation. Just two people choosing each other. "You are sure?" I asked. Cassian looked at me. "I have spent my entire life surrounded by people who wanted me because of what I represented. You were the first person who stayed because of who I was." His voice became quieter. "I do not want a contract that keeps you beside me. I want you here because you want to be." For a moment, I remembered the first day we met. I remembered standing in that crowded ballroom, believing I was invisible. I remembered Cassian walking through a room full of powerful people and seeing only me. "Then I choose you too," I said. And somehow, those simple words meant more than any agreement ever could. Later that night, we left the gala together. No cameras. No announcements. No need to prove anything. Just the two of us walking through the city lights, hand in hand. Cassian looked different. Lighter. Like he had finally stopped carrying the weight of a legacy that was never completely his. "Do you think people will ever stop talking?" I asked. He looked at me and smiled. "Probably not." I laughed. "That sounds less comforting than you think." "Maybe," he said, "but we are not living for them anymore." A few months later, we moved into a new apartment overlooking the city. It was not the largest place Cassian had ever owned. It was not filled with family history or expectations. It was simply ours. There were books on the shelves, coffee cups on the kitchen counter, and small reminders that two people from completely different worlds had created something real. The world still had questions. Society still had rules. But every morning, I woke up knowing one thing. I was not chosen because I was an exception. I was chosen because I was Noah. And Cassian Wolfe was not the man who changed my life because he was the most powerful enigma in the world. He was the man who changed my life because, when everyone else saw a beta who did not belong, he saw the person I had always been.